When I first started freelancing, I did a lot of work for free because I thought that as a writer that was how you had to start out, that all writers needed to get runs on the board, which were words that were said to me, and it was the best way to build your portfolio, and that going for bigger publications that paid a lot of money was reserved for perhaps more established writers or people that were in the know or were securing work on a more regular basis. So it was interesting because that wasn't something that I'd ever held as a mindset. So I'd come from roles in which I'd excelled. I'd been working in the corporate space for a long time and handling clients that were worth a lot of money. So money itself wasn't an obstacle for me, but when it came to valuing myself as a freelancer, I suddenly had quite an identity crisis, really, in terms of what do I charge? How do you structure a rate card? How do you move out of doing free work and getting into paid work? And they were things that I really felt a bit lost in limbo land around. And it wasn't until I did workshops that combated things like writer's block and helped you understand your value as a writer. And really, it wasn't until I stopped comparing myself to other well-established writers that I sat and appreciated who I was and what my work was about, and in turn started going for things that were in line with my expertise. But it took me a long time. It took me probably well over a year, which may or may not be an average for most people, but it's definitely, from what I've learned, being in the writing industry and being a freelancer, a real moot point for a lot of people. Yeah.
So you certainly wouldn't recommend freelancing as far as going into it for the money, but surely some valuable lessons around money must have come out of those experiences for you. Can you share some of those learnings, those tips?
Yeah, I know of freelancers that have made really brilliant careers from it, and you need to be a particular type of character and have particular personality traits that can be cultivated. But if anything, I think having savings in the bank or another position, a part-time job, will definitely be worth its weight in gold while you break into a full-time freelancing career. And in terms of tips and recommendations that I would have for people is that you really need to understand what your outgoings are before you enter into the world of freelancing, because a lot of people I know live on credit. A lot of people often end up in the red because you've got to pay for mobile bills, electricity, all those sorts of things. And freelancing as an income source can be incredibly varied and it can fluctuate significantly. And you don't have an accounts person. You're an accounts department. You're your own manager. You're your own writer. You're everything. So you need to really learn how to follow up on all of those sorts of things in order to consistently keep your head above water, I think, as well. And building key relationships, I think, is really instrumental too, where at least if you can have some form of regular gigs coming in to give you a level of comfort and at least have enough money to cover your basic necessities. If there's any advice I can give to people, because you don't want the stress and the anxiety. I've been there, a lot of people I know have been there, and it can be really debilitating not knowing when money's going to come in. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So just on going back purely to the money and learning lessons, at this stage where you're at now, how do you assert your worth? How do you claim your worth? And are there things you need to keep reminding yourself, or are there things you can do to kind of remind yourself to really just claim all the full worth for your skills and all your work experience, really?
Yeah, I think what's really worthwhile is whether you do this on your own or whether you recruit a really great friend that knows you both professionally and personally, it's worth blocking out a day to 2 days and just writing down everything that you've done in your personal and professional career. So whether you've climbed Mount Everest, whether we're a restaurant manager at McDonald's, anything like that. And then with each of those achievements and projects and endeavours that you've done, break out the key achievements and break out the key outcomes and things like that that you learned or gained, because what that then informs is things like your portfolio and your resume, and it becomes social cachet. If you've done work for clients, I'd get their testimonials. So what you want to do is build 2 to 3 different versions of your resume, 2 to 3 different versions of your portfolio, and showcase to people what your expertise is, because it's very hard, especially maybe if you don't come from a sales background, to sell yourself, because essentially as a freelancer, that's what you do every way. You're standing in your worth and saying to people, I am brilliant at all of these things, and therefore I need to be remunerated for this amount, because people will negotiate down, people will want to charge you a lot less, or pay you a lot less, sorry. So you need to constantly be valuing yourself, because that in turn will make people value you. It's where you start to perhaps reduce your costs to get the work on board, or you do work for free, that you're instantly devaluing your proposition, and then it's very hard to come off that low base and actually stand in what you should be getting paid.